The text came in at 1:40 in the morning. I read it 4 times before I understood it. You still owe me. I need you to pretend to be my fiance for one afternoon. Sunday, my grandmother's 90th. Wear something with sleeves. It was from Junie Alvarado, who I hadn't spoken to in 2 years. The debt was real. My last semester, my mother had a stroke, and I drove home every weekend for 4 months. Junie ran our senior capstone alone the whole time and never told the professor a word about it. I graduated because she carried me. At the party after, 6 beers deep, I told her I owed her anything, forever, no questions. People say things like that. She wrote it down. So Sunday at noon, I picked her up, and she came out in a yellow dress with her hair pinned back and handed me an index card through the window before she sat down. 2 years. You proposed in November at the Overlook off Route 12. It's Junie, not June. You don't like cilantro. She read it off like an inventory. I said, do I get to ask why? She said her grandmother had been in and out of the hospital since March, and there was one thing the woman kept asking about, and she was tired of disappointing her. Then she didn't say anything else for 11 miles. We pulled into a driveway full of cars, and she took one breath, put her hand in mine, and turned into somebody else entirely. Ready? Her family swallowed me whole. Her uncle put a plate in my hands before I got in the door. Somebody's kids climbed me like furniture. Her grandmother sat in a recliner in the front room with a blanket over her knees, and when Junie brought me over, the old woman held my face in both hands and looked at me for a long time. She said, "This one has kind eyes." Junie's whole body changed when she said it. I felt it through her arm. I stopped acting around too and didn't notice for another hour. When her aunt started a story, I put my arm across the back of her chair without thinking. When the room got loud, she leaned in to say something and her hair touched my jaw, and I forgot the entire sentence. Somebody put music on and her grandmother wanted to see us dance, so we did, with the coffee table shoved against the wall, and Junie counted the steps under her breath like a test she could fail. I said, "Quit counting. Just stand there and let me move." She stopped counting. She put her head on my shoulder, and I stood in that room and thought, I would do this every Sunday for the rest of my life. Her cousin caught me on the porch later and said, "Thank you for today." Then she said, "Even if it's just today," and went back inside before I could ask what she meant. Driving home, I couldn't hold it. I said, "Junie, I know what this was." But none of that was acting for me. Not 1 minute of it. She went absolutely still. When I stopped at her building, she had the door open before the car settled. "You were great. We're square. That's it. That's paid." She was inside before I got a word out. I sat there with the engine running, feeling like the stupidest man alive. Her cousin texted me the next morning. "Coffee place on Ridge. Bring nothing." She slid our old capstone binder across the table. "She'll never forgive me for this," she said. It was our project, the one Junie finished alone. But in the margins of every single page, in her handwriting, there was a running record of me. He drove 4 hours and still called me Thursday. He apologized for being tired. He remembered my mother's name. 3 months of small things I didn't remember doing. Her cousin told me the rest. Nobody in that family had ever been pressuring her about anything. Her grandmother had asked about me by name once, in March, because Junie had talked about me for 2 years. And Junie had turned down a fellowship in Denver twice, and had finally accepted it, starting in 6 weeks, because she'd decided she'd misread me completely and needed to stop waiting. I drove to her apartment. She answered in a sweatshirt, eyes swollen, and started to say something. I held up the binder. She said, "Oh God." I kissed her on her own doorstep, and she grabbed a fistful of my shirt and didn't let go. When we came apart, she said, "What about Denver?" I said I'd heard good things about Denver, and that I still owed her, because the favor was one afternoon, and I intended to be very slow about paying the rest.